I'm a little bit surprised to say it, but Eleanor is probably better than I expected her to be. And in this video, sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, we're going to talk about what I think the future of Eleanor will be, given that we've done some Ark of Osiris test results, we've seen her being used by the best teams in Ark of Osiris League in the matches that really matter, and last but not least, there are some KvK reports starting to roll in, and they look kind of promising. So what does Eleanor do? We'll review the reports, and you can always use the timestamps in the description to navigate to the part of the video you're most interested in. But before we talk about whether or not a commander is going to be viable, we need to review their skills. And you may recall when we first reviewed Eleanor's skills, my big concern is her ability to be swarmed. If you can't handle a swarm, you can't go in a garrison in KvK, especially not in Kingsland. So I hypothesized originally that her best bet was going to be for forts, for passes, those sorts of situations. So as a reminder, her active skill does 2300 damage factor, and she does reduce the skill damage that she's taking for the next 3 seconds. It's a 10% reduction, however, which is like not a ton. The next skill gives you 20% cav attack, and if you were the garrison commander, you take 15% less counterattack damage. But remember, this only benefits you for the thing you are directly targeting, which typically will be a rally. All right. From there, you've got Rock Crystal Vase. This cavalry commander's units gain 15% defense. Oh, man. If this commander is serving as a garrison commander, whenever their garrison is hit with a basic attack, it has a 10% chance to use their active skill all over again, and there's an internal cooldown here of 10 seconds. Now, this skill is not exactly anti-swarm, but when getting swarmed, this will punish the rally. So if you can keep this garrison full, the rally will start to get punished. The next skill brings us, what is it? 10% more damage is kind of nice. If this commander's troop is serving as a garrison, for the next 3 seconds after their troop uses an active skill, and by the way, remember, she has a chance to use her active skill all over again. Up to 5 nearby allied or friendly troops, including this one, gain a bonus of 5% damage dealt. And for every allied or friendly troop nearby, excluding this commander's troop gains an extra 5% bonus damage dealt. So there's a lot of bonus damage coming from this skill under the assumption there's stuff nearby, which there usually is going to be stuff nearby in Ark of Osiris. Less so in KvK, where you either have the field or you don't, and in most cases you don't. If you are able to contest the field while a rally is happening, you're probably in pretty good shape for your garrison. But also, I would say in a pass, you're almost certainly just going to have a ton of allied troops just standing around nearby. So this benefit could give you an upwards of 10, then another 10 on top. So, like, we're looking at an extra 20% all damage, which should be pretty transformative. Of course, I thought the Belisarius all damage taken debuff was going to be transformative, but it kind of is good, but just incremental. Whatever, let's keep going here. Duchess of Aquitaine, the expertise. You take 5% less damage. That's actually pretty good. And this commander's troop deals 10% more skill damage to its current target. So not AoE skill damage boost, like we've seen on commanders like, what is it? Hermann Prime, I think, has that. Specifically skill damage boost to AoE, but this is damage to your current target, so I think this ends up being single target damage, skill damage boost. Our suspicion going into testing was that Eleanor would be good with Hera as a sort of anti-swarm garrison, and Jan Ziska, because that's basically the best we've got in terms of cavalry garrisons right now for high skill damage. Now, for this round of testing, we removed city themes, attack and defense tokens, we removed armaments, we removed equipment, because the reality is that no one's really got an apples to apples perfectly even matchup of armaments and equipment. And I completely recognize that armaments and equipment obviously shift the way that a commander will perform. So this is intended to be directional learning as we figure out the combos from our first round of testing. And so let's review what we learned. We rallied into the Eleanor with Hera, with an Ashe Zhuge Liang, and the Ashe Zhuge Liang kind of got wrecked. 79,000 to 52,000. So this to me is signaling, hey, this combo actually could work. We did it again, 88,000 to 49,000, looking very good. From there, we tried the Jan Žižka, and this did worse. It actually lost. 57,000 to 59,000. Now, of course, there could be randomness, so we ran it back. The Ashe Zhuge Liang into the Eleanor with Jan Žižka. In fact, yes, we ran it in that same order, which we're going to change up in a minute. You'll see why. 64,000 to 55,000, a slightly better result here, of course, for the garrison. But what about Jan Žižka as the primary? 66,000 to 48,000. I think Jan Žižka ends up being better because of the skill tree. If you're not getting swarmed, that's going to be better. And by the way, another one, 63,800 to 52,400 with the Jan Žižka as the primary. So what we kind of concluded from this so far is, hey, actually Hera looks like it might be the best combo with Eleanor. And if you're going to use Jan Žižka, use him as the primary. All right. From there, we tried some other rally types. Now, it's funny, in Ark of Osiris, we used to be able to run practice matches and really learn a lot. But the funny thing now is that you can't bring the artifact that switches one commander's troop type to another. So the real rallies we want to test, like Attila with Liu Cha, you can't really do that in an Ark of Osiris match, right? It just doesn't work. So we used Tariq ibn Ziyad with Sargon the Great into this garrison and actually won, which is not a good sign for the Eleanor with Hera. Like, this rally is not very good, IMO, and it's still winning. So the cavalry are definitely vulnerable to an infantry rally here, although it did turn around and win with the Jan Žižka and Eleanor combo, 63,000 to 54,000. We ran a Tariq ibn Ziyad with Liu Cha at the request of the chat, and that did poorly, 62,000 to 43,000 against the Eleanor with Hera. And we ran the Nevsky with Belly. Okay, now look, we didn't have a Justinian to run for this particular test. Keep in mind, we did this testing right after Kingsland. Everybody was burned out. And nobody has troops. Like, that's why we're using 500,000. And some of these reports have 500,001 T1 troop just to like be able to get the report. People were interested in having that. And I said, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter. So you're looking at 55,000 to 61,000. We actually were shocked that like, wait, hey, hold up. Wait, what? That the Belly Prime actually got a W here? So the actual learning from this testing is Belly Prime usable for a rally, question mark? Not really, because then we turn around and got this one. 87,000 to 50,000 for the Eleanor with Hera. Wow. Bit of a yikes. Then they swarmed my city, which actually worked out pretty well because some of them had gear and I did not. So what did we learn from this testing? Couple things. The first is that I think if you're going to be using the Jan Žižka Eleanor combo, and you're not going to get swarmed, that the Jan Žižka is the better primary. However, between the two, if I were betting Kingsland on a garrison right now, I would put the Eleanor in the garrison with the Hera. And I would say overall, I would anticipate that you get a better anti-swarm result with a Gorgo Hera, and you might get a better result against unsupported rallies, no swarm, maybe, with an Eleanor with Hera, but we didn't really go and test that. And I mentioned that because Eleanor is really kind of designed to take out that rally, whereas I would argue that the Gorgo is more designed to take out swarmers. And so if I had to today pick garrisons, I would say, again, number one, Gorgo Hera for Kingsland is the all-around. Number two, actually Eleanor Hera, which is surprising, and I would say it replaces probably the Jan Žižka Hera. Of course, don't take my word for it. Let's look at what was being used in Ark of Osiris League. In Ark of Osiris League, where the stakes are very, very high single elimination, the best teams in the game were using Eleanor with Hera. So I feel like that tells you the thing you really need to know, that Eleanor was being used, and she was being used, by the way, as the primary with her defense tree. And we spectated a number of matches. I cast on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. We saw 93T using this garrison as a part of their victory here. And it is interesting now, the main teams of 1188 and 93 are going to be battling each other in the semifinals. Kind of cool. But I expect we will only see more Eleanor as we go. And on the topic of only seeing more Eleanor, we even got to garrison a flag in the KvK that I'm in with an Eleanor, and it slapped, man. It did very well, but the rally got swarmed out toward the end, so it also got ran into the ground, so it's a little bit hard to say. But overall, my summary of the learning so far on Eleanor from what I have seen, and look, I'd love to see any reports you've got. Drop them into the KvK stories section of my Discord server. That's discord.gg/Chisgule. But my read on Eleanor here is that she is going to be good. But I don't think I would try to use her necessarily in a situation where I can switch her troop type from one to another. I'd have to put more thought into this, but as an infantry player, I don't think I'm using Eleanor because she focuses on dealing skill damage and Gorgo is focused on doing smite damage. So there's a bit of a weird mismatch here where I don't think it's a bad thing that cavalry are focused on skill damage, but I also don't think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to potentially combine her with a commander like Gorgo. So TLDR, very good in a pass, very good in an unswarmed building, potentially in something that is harder to swarm and it's getting reinforced, like a fort. I think it could be really powerful. She's good in Ark of Osiris when there's a lot of troops nearby, which seems to be true. And also, because she is Cav, look, you march faster. So in Ark of Osiris, you care a lot about march speed. Cavalry are the meta in Ark. 3 out of 5 marches that you bring typically are Cav. So yeah, Eleanor's doing really, really well there. So all in all, she turns out to be, in my opinion, a better addition to the game than I anticipated. And funny enough, the Belisarius Prime is less good of an addition to the game than I anticipated. Of course, I covered that in other videos, and you saw me use him in my live streams, so I'll have cards in the end screen for both the Belisarius Prime testing and also some live stream battling. I hope you'll check those out. And again, please do visit the KvK stories section of my Discord, where I hope you'll go in and post some of your reports with Eleanor. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom. And if you like this kind of testing, I always do testing and a summary of testing anytime a new commander except Siege drops into the game, so consider subscribing.